welcome to the Pizza Marketplace podcast. I'm Mandy Detwiler, editor of Pizza Marketplace, and I'm here today with Brandon Hunt and Zane Hunt, two brothers who launched Via 313 in Austin, Texas. Guys, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mandy.
Well, how did the idea of the restaurant come about, and why did you choose Detroit-style pizza? Tell us your origin story.
Well, the origin story it comes back to we're two brothers, obviously from the Detroit area. A single mom raised us for the most part, and she ate a lot of pizza when we were really young. And a lot of that pizza was probably what we would refer to as like mom and pop type shops. We have a lot of Italian bakeries that we grew up nearby, and we also had a few places that were serving square pizza, which we now refer to as Detroit style pizza. Right? This has been in the 1980s and into the early 90s. So, I think a lot of times when you think about where we're at right now in 2024 with the hyper gentrification of pizza, back then we were just talking about this, like there was round and square pizza, right? And round pizza could have been a number of different things. Square pizza could have been a number of different things, whether it was a sheet pan pizza from an Italian bakery or grandma style pizza, which I don't think anybody was calling it grandma style, but clearly that's what it was. It was thinner, Sicilian. And then we had Detroit because of the caramelized edges, right? So we grew up around all this. And I think it took us until we were a little bit older and started to travel a little bit to realize that we were really fortunate to have all these different styles in Detroit. Detroit's really a great pizza market with a lot to offer. And we didn't realize that at the time. So fast forward all the way to 2008 or 2009, I moved down to Austin from the Detroit area in 2009. With my wife and kids. We were just looking to get a fresh start somewhere. We came down here, and within a few months, we were seeking out pizza that reminded us of home. And we realized really quickly it didn't exist. So at the same time, going concurrently, Brandon was working in the Detroit area at a restaurant, and he'd been in the industry, since he was a teenager at that point. And we started having conversations about what it could potentially look like to start something here in Austin together. And the obvious thing to serve would be the style of pizza that didn't exist down here in Austin in 2008 and 9, which was Detroit style pizza, when there was really no square pizza at all in Austin at that point, I don't believe. So that's what got the sort of the engine that started, and the conversation started from there. And we went through a period where we had a recipe that we both were comfortable with. We were trying to refine it and get it to a point where we were comfortable serving it to somebody. And I think the thing that we talk about the most when we're telling our origin story is just how little confidence we had in both what we were doing and our own abilities, just in general, to start a business. We had no experience starting a business, or we had a pizza business or a pizza experience making pizzas, but not running a business or starting a business, right? So it took us a while from the time that we started talking about doing something and refining the recipes, coming up with a menu and that sort of thing. It took us about, almost 2 years, because we opened up in the first pizza trailer for Via 313 in December of 2011. So it was about a 2-year process, really, in hindsight, for various reasons. But that's a little bit of our origin story right there, yeah.
Okay. What's going to set you guys apart from other pizza places? I know Austin is a really foodie town. So what's going to set you guys apart from other pizza places and other restaurants?
What sets us apart from other restaurants was we hyper-focused on service and consistency. Something we've talked about a lot was internally is we can't get into if we're the best pizza in the world, or if Jets is better than us, or Home Slice, or whoever's our competition. But we can make sure that people get taken care of. We can make sure that we admit when we make mistakes and correct them efficiently, and make sure that the customer wins at at every level. So I feel like that was really important to us early on. Was service was a thing that could separate us from. You really can't debate whether service is good or not, or if we're the best at service. That's not debatable. So that was really important to us. We do put a lot of care into the pizza. there's, when we opened in 2011, you know, it was Buddy's and all the places back home in Detroit, which were kind of in the middle of a price war. And we thought we could go to Austin, bring in the best ingredients we can get, and Austin will pay for that next level of quality. So we brought in, at the time, 2011. We thought we were going to bring in the best ingredients that we can, and just do a better version of that style of pizza that we grew up eating. So we're constantly trying to find better cheeses, better sauces, and not really just kind of settling.
Okay. Why Detroit style pizza? I mean, you could have gone with anything. What was it about that style that attracted you both to it?
Well, I'll take a swing at that. I think, for us, as I mentioned earlier, we grew up eating a variety of styles of pizza. The last of which, of the things you'd find in Detroit specifically, but the last of which that we were introduced to was probably Detroit style pizza itself, only because we didn't grow up super close to a place that served it. We had to, have our driver's licenses and be able to, go somewhere and try it. And those were full service restaurants. So it became like an experience. It wasn't just getting a carryout pizza, from a delivery carryout spot. It was a sit down, full service experience. And I remember being like 16 or 17 years old, just being blown away by the idea of a full service pizza restaurant, which was probably the first, well, besides Pizza Hut, right? I think we grew up with sitting down in those Pizza Hut restaurants, right? But doing that style pizza in a more, I wouldn't say formal, but a little more formal of an environment than just handing you a pizza at a window, right? So it left a big impression on both of us, I think. Then, of course, there's the taste and the light and airiness of the dough. There's just, to me, Detroit style pizza, when it's done right, has terrific balance combined with those caramelized edges, right? So it just left a really strong impression on us. Not that with the first time we tried it, we were like, we're going to end up doing this one day. It wasn't like that at all. It took us moving down here and realizing the things that were missing in Austin that could potentially work. It felt very much like Austin was a city on the cusp of blowing up a little bit, and getting really a lot of attention for its culinary diversity. It was still not that diverse when we moved here. And, I'd like to think that we played a role by choosing to do this style of pizza and bringing it to a new market, that we, spread some goodwill, I think, calling it Detroit style pizza and letting people know that, look, there's good things that come out of Detroit. So listen, like Brandon said, we consider a debate about what the best pizza is. You could ask 10 people and you're going to get 10 different answers, and everybody's right. So it's okay. But we're doing the best version of what we like. That's what I can say. We like what we do. We think we do a very good version of it. And we're also kind of stewards and ambassadors for the city, and we're being born and raised there. We take a lot of pride in the fact that we're at the forefront of that. Or we're at the forefront. I don't know. We're 14 years or 13 years later. I don't know if we're at the forefront anymore, but yeah.
Sure. What makes Detroit style dough different from traditional dough for our listeners who maybe don't know? And you don't have to give away any trade secrets. Just how does it differ?
I think a traditional pizza place, they make the dough, they bowl it up, goes in the walk-in, pull it out, and stretch it by hand and throw it in the oven. What we do is, when we make our dough, we press it out in the pan right then and there. We put it in the walk-in as well. We have to bring the dough out for almost a minimum of an hour to let it get another rise on it. So it ferments in the fridge for a little bit, and then when we pull it, it has an hour or two to get a nice rise on it. So it gets that light and airy crust. So there's no pressing it out on the line. They just top the pizza, throw it in the oven, and then we put the sauce on after the bake. So it allows the cheese to really bake into the bread and get that crispy crust,
That's the best. That crispy crust is it's just magical.
Yeah. It's like, sometimes people will leave like a 1-star Yelp review or Google review, and they say, all it is fancy cheese bread. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Well, how did you know you were ready to go to expand to number two? Because going from one to two is often the hardest. Sometimes three, four, five, they tend to fall into line, but that second one, you're stretched into two different places. Your leadership goes into two different places. How did you guys know you were ready?
Hmm.
I'll let my brother take that.
You all right? I'll take a swing. And Brandon, please chime in. You might have a different angle on this than me. Yeah, for me, so like think about it like this, Mandy. We had a trailer, so a small team. I don't know what we were doing on a busy night, maybe $1,000 on a busy night, like a Friday or Saturday at this first pizza trailer. And we had a small team, but remember, you can only have so many team members in that trailer at any given time, maybe 5 people max, right? So we have a small team that we were working with, and we had that first trailer open for about a year, and I think we were I think we had good traction. I don't know if we were necessarily top of mind when people thought about pizza in Austin, but we were working our way up, right? And certainly when you think of Detroit style pizza, we were the only game in town at that point for doing that. So we had a captive audience. Our trailer was downtown, and it was kind of in a bar district. So I think there was a feeling that maybe we were kind of like a drunk, people. It's like a nightlife thing, right? Which is fine. I think that was okay to get us started. But that's not really what we were after, right? So after being there for about a year, uh, we started to have conversations about doing a second trailer. The idea being that we can take the revenue from the first trailer and then combine it with the revenue of the second trailer, save enough money to open our first restaurant. That's really what we were after, was opening that first restaurant. So we just saw it as a way to speed up the process, I guess. And so we found a trailer. Like I think we bought it off of Craigslist. Actually, I think we found another trailer on Craigslist. Drove up and bought it. We put it in a different part of town. And I think to get back to you, I'm just giving you a little background story. But to get back to your question, how do we know it was time? Well, because there was two of us, and we both knew how to do most everything in the business, and we felt like we could split up. And not that trailer one was his or mine, or vice versa with number two, but that there was two of us and we could split up and share responsibilities among the two locations. If it would have just been me by myself, or Brandon just by himself, oh hell, I don't even know if we would have started the business period at that point. But I don't know. But in subsequent openings, everything that we did when we opened number three or number four, or number five, super organic, never paying for marketing or any kind of PR or anything. We just did things when it felt right. I know that's a kind of a wishy-washy answer, but that's the reality. I mean, I don't think we moved fast. Like looking back in hindsight, I think we moved fast, but we also, when we were doing it, it didn't feel like we were moving fast. It felt like we were doing things at the rate that we should be doing things. It didn't feel like we were stretching ourselves too thin necessarily, or we were rushing things. But we were just talking about this the other day about how, what are the things that we had to do to put in place to open number 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. It just came down to processes, manuals, writing everything down, having a sort of like a prep Bible, so to speak. Like, and what's funny is like those things don't necessarily come natural to us. Those aren't necessarily things that we wanted to do, but we saw it as necessary in order to grow. I think we were at that time probably both very protective of the recipes. Didn't want any watchful eyes looking at things. I mean, we were just protective. I think that's probably in our DNA, just being protective of everything. But we also realized through talking to other industry experts or people that we look up to that that's cute if you just want to have one location, but if you want to scale and you want to grow something, you got to give some of that up. And we had to get comfortable with that.
How many units do you all have now?
We have 20, and we're opening 21 next week, actually.
So by the time this publishes, you will have had 21. Yeah.
Yeah, about 10 days, actually.
I
Yeah,
think the
10, in
last
10
time
days.
when I talked to you guys, you only had 8. So that's
Oh
been
my
great.
gosh.
Yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
while.
My brother and I have been working so hard over here.
Sounds like it.
No. We got such a great team. So many people now. I think we have 1,500 employees now. So, I mean, it a lot easier now to go fast.
Do you worry about growing too big too fast?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, it's funny to think, we were talking about this too the other day, is at 20 stores, we're still a little bit at a equilibrium point because to scale as fast as we're going, we're essentially spending money that we hope hits the bank account tomorrow morning. So we're still at kind of a make or break point. And it's funny to think of that 13 years in, but we have to scale correctly. We need to do 6 stores this year, then 8 the following year. And you're kind of assuming that those sales are going to be there. And so that's the private equity world. That's the learning experience that we're getting with them.
Well, tell us a little bit about that partnership.
Yeah, we got it to 5 locations, and we both felt like that was kind of bigger than anything that we've been in charge of. Maybe we could have did a 6th one comfortably, but with COVID happening, we went to market. We pitched it to, I don't know, a lot, just about anybody that would listen to us, honestly, and we got a bunch of offers from different private equity companies. We did the deal that was best for us. Wasn't necessarily the most money or the biggest splash, but it was the best partners for us. Savory Fund in Utah, where the conversations were different. It wasn't just always about money and return on investment. It was about our family. What are our goals? What do we don't want to see with the brand? It felt very personal, those meetings, and it made us put us at ease, because it can be a pretty daunting task dealing with these private equity people that are going to run with your baby. So it really did kind of put us at ease. And, with their help, we've done 15 stores in the last, has it been 3 years now? And it's been a huge learning experience for us.
What's been the biggest challenges that you've faced as you've scaled?
There's a lot of them. One that is personal to me is it's really hard to scale and keep having fun while doing it. We could go to a bar tomorrow here in Austin and do a pizza pop-up tomorrow morning. And, with just a lot of flexibility when you're just 2 guys in Austin doing a pizza place. We could do a ramen pizza tomorrow morning with a ramen shop. Like we've done a good job maintaining some of it, but it has to run through a lot more channels now, and changes. If we change the pepperoni has to change at 20 locations. So we have to make sure that the distribution network is set up in Colorado and Utah. So those are the things that are a little challenging for me, because we got to maintain having fun and stay loose while we're scaling. And there's some challenges that come with that.
Okay. As you've grown, how do you make sure that company culture is the same from store 1, to store 21, that the company culture and all of the employees are treated the same way?
Well, I think, listen, what I'm about to say is the idea of this. Doesn't necessarily mean it gets executed at 100% all the time, right? But the early days of our partnership with Savory, and I mean I say the early days, I mean probably the first year or so. Those are a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations, a lot of things that surrounding, like, what are your guys' non-negotiables when it comes to the business? What are the things that you're not willing to let go of? Whether that's something as obvious as not changing recipes to the music in the restaurants. And one of the things that came up was around culture, and how to answer, Mandy, I guess the question would be is like, well, how do you take the thoughts that are in Brandon and our brains in the way we do business and propagate that out over and over again? It's insanely challenging, right? And I think a lot of places try to do it and don't do it well. So it came through a lot of conversations, a lot of note taking, and then that stuff is expressed through, I think what we have is a really substantial training program right now, better than it's ever been. So a lot of that stuff comes through in training. We have culture days where we come in when we open a new location and spend a day with the team before we open, telling, much like this, telling our store origin story and talking, leaving no stone unturned when it comes to picking our brain. Like, it's a Q&A session. So I think those things help. Now, I don't think it's perfect, right? But it helps. And then we go back and do store visits afterward and continue to spread the story of the things that make us tick and the things that we're after. So those are some of the attempts that we make. And I say attempts because, again, it's not perfect. but it's better than nothing, and it's pretty good actually. I think it's pretty good.
I guess my last question is, having done this for so many years and started from the ground up, what kind of advice would you give to a fledgling operator who is just starting in the business? I know that the pizza business, we all kind of know everybody else. Everybody knows everybody in this industry. What kind of advice would you give to someone just starting?
I'll let me go first. I'll say this, and Brandon, I want to hear what you have to say. Two things is if you have a thought, don't talk yourself out of it. I mean, obviously you want to do your research, but in general, you should go with it. If you have a gut feeling, I think you should trust your gut, and that doesn't mean that you're going to have a lot of confidence, right? But one of the things that you can do when you don't have confidence is surround yourself with people that have done it. Ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Put yourself out there. Um, there's old, no, nobody's, you can't sell anything if you're not trying. Like going door to door selling pizza or something. I don't know. You got to put yourself out there, and you can't be afraid. I mean, I think I don't know if we were afraid. Obviously, it didn't cripple us, but we were super concerned, and we didn't have a lot of confidence. So to me, it's just putting yourself out there, surrounding yourself with people that have had success that you can lean on. And also, the last thing I would say is don't pretend like you are an expert on everything. Like typically, most of human beings, we're probably pretty good at a couple things. This ego can kill you. Like trying to think that you're great at everything. I mean, that'll be the death of you and the death of your business. Surround yourself with people that can fill in those voids and allow you to elevate the things that you're good at.
Brandon?
I mean, he took the words out of my mouth. I
Oh,
think of those
I'm
early
so sorry.
days, going to different conferences and events, and just seeing Tony Gimignani and Big Dave and all these people that were really helpful to us early on, that pointed us in the right direction or could at least introduce us to someone that could help us. I think everybody that has made it is available, and I think we feel indebtedness to be available to everyone. So not being afraid to ask for help and we do these events, we speak at events, and I hand out our card, and nobody ever follows up, and it's kind of a bummer because it's like, man, I want to help you. I want people to do well. So many people helped us. So again, just not being afraid to ask for help.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us today. This has been excellent.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, always good to see you, Mandy.
Thanks. That'll do it for this episode of the Pizza Marketplace podcast, and we'll catch you next time.